So there's going to be that inevitable echo where the stream is delayed. So there's gonna be that inevitable. Yeah.
That was a long.
Okay. That was a long pause. Okay. So hello and welcome back to another conversation. I'm your host, Coco. If y'all couldn't tell. Today, we are back with another conversation. I'm back with a new group of people, and we're going to have a discussion about what is Blackness. But before we dive into that, I want everyone to go around the room, say, hey, your name, a little bit about yourself, and what interested you in having this conversation with me that I pre-planned and asked y'all to come.
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Lavender, you're muted.
Oh, she's going? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're on mute.
Me? No, me.
My bad.
Okay.
Hello. I'm Lavender. I am so grateful and honored to be here. I love Coco's content and been following for a while, and I really want to get more into community, like town hall type discussions, and take it off the app because we can't really have conversations over there. So, but I'm an activist and advocate. I am in charge of the marketing and PR department for Houston Pride. I'm in Houston, Black, pro-gay, pro everything that is Black in all those intersections, single mom. So I make content about Blackness and queerness and intersections and mental health. So I'm very honored to be here.
Okay, well, my name is birthright name Candace, but personality name is Chase or C Hayes. If you can't pronounce, Chase, it's fine. It's all right. We've had our difficulties in the past. Once again, thank you. To reiterate what Lavender said, thank you for asking me to join on. This is really appreciated. Reason why I wanted to come together and talk about Blackness is we've just been seeing a lot of just ridiculous, hideous things in the media lately, and I feel like everyone has their own personal viewpoint on certain things, especially with a certain video going around. Anyway, we're probably going to discuss that later on. So I just wanted to, put my little P's and Q's and my ones and twos on it. And TikTok name is there, Chase Inc. If you want to follow me. And I've been following Coco for a very, 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 very long time. Love her very much. So thanks.
Okay, I guess I'll go. I don't give people my real name because people on TikTok are crazy. So I would just go by Daria. I'm the Black Daria on TikTok. I met Coco once we became mutuals. I'm a big fan of her as well. I'm a therapist by training, but I'm a clinical supervisor now, working with like mobile crisis. So they go out to the homes when children need crisis planning. Anyway, I think what's kind of drew me to this particular panel was, again, all of the stuff that you see in the media and everything that we consume surrounding Blackness, but also I've been noticing some things about my own kid who is multicultural and just trying to figure out like what space she's supposed to be in, how people are going to be seeing her. So I just thought it'd be an interesting discussion.
Hey, everybody. So I'm B Bad. But I have a podcast that goes by Tactless Radio. So I'm Tactless Radio, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. That's how I met Coco. I've been following her for a little bit. I absolutely love her content. That's how we were connected because I'm pretty sure I was saying some off the wall stuff and Coco was like, I agree. So that's how I was able to be invited to this amazing panel with all of you amazing women. And my 9 to 5, I am an educator for corporations. So a lot of my space, a lot of the background that I have is in education. I've also have aligned myself with Black women. I say that I am a Black woman advocate. Everything that I do is for Black women. I'm a Black woman, superwoman, pro, very similar to Lavender, pro LGTB, pro do whatever the fuck you want to do, pro Black community, pro Black love. I am everything. Just call me Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black, basically.
Well, thank y'all all for being here. Like, I feel like y'all saying y'all feeling me. I can't. I'm learning to just absorb things, okay? So
Loving.
instead of I'm gonna absorb it and claim it for myself, okay? So I don't even know why I have an interest in this conversation. I don't know how to fit that into like 30 seconds. I don't think it's possible, but I've just, I've always been for the girls, my entire life. I don't think that I had the luxury of being a suburban kid that grew up in a bubble of not understanding whiteness and Blackness and how that played out. My grandparents, my parents, and all of their parents were born in Bastrop, Louisiana and Oak Ridge, Louisiana. So I came off the womb like this, and getting an education and studying history, political science, and much more has really led me to have a very vested interest in these kinds of conversations. And TikTok, it's a sociologist's wet dream. It's just wow. Wow, it's very interesting.
Responses all over the place all the time.
Yeah, wow. So
it's
I'm like,
hot mess. Oh,
it is. It's the hot mess that we need to unravel it and figure out what that's about. So I started having these conversations just because I need to figure out what the fuck going on. So I want to have this particular conversation because as on TikTok as we are, there has been many different fights on many different fronts about what Blackness is racially versus ethnically, and people not understanding how those things play off of each other, and just a general just misunderstanding of race, ethnicity, and nationality to begin with.
Yeah.
So I wanted to unpack that a little bit and get into some of the other conversations we were having about mixed children and biracial people and biracial children with Black parents, and the whole conversation about white presenting and passing. Because I don't think we've revisited that in a few decades. And so let's just do it. So
yeah.
Okay.
Why not? Why not?
I'm trying to go there, but
Let's go there. Let's do it.
So before we get into it, I would like to briefly just all touch and agree on my hair. One of these hairs is in my mouth. Touch and agree on definitions of each of these things. So I found definitions. We can agree, disagree, all that. I didn't put it up on the right computer to share the screen. So I guess I'll have to read. So the definition I found for race is, where's this from? From National Geographic. We'll see what they have. Mm-hmm. Race is defined as a category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical traits. The term ethnicities is more broadly defined as a large group. I'll leave that to that. We'll take that as race. That first line, do we agree, disagree, want to add, subtract, alter?
Can you read it one more time?
Race is defined as a category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical traits.
I do not
agree.
No.
Really?
I think it's more nuanced than that, but I guess yes.
I feel like if you had to, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say we have to pick yes or no. Yes, but I feel like yes and is more appropriate.
So I'm trying to pick the definition. So as we go through the conversation, okay. We're all on the same page. So when we go into these different questions, I'm asking racially versus ethnically for a certain thing. We've already defined what race is versus an ethnicity.
Okay, then sure.
So not just like not the full. The white folk don't get it. They ain't gonna get it.
No, not in the slightest.
So ethnicity, which relates to cultural contingent features characterized all human groups. It refers to a sense of identity and membership in a group that shares common language, cultural traits, values, beliefs, religion, food habits, customs, etc., and a sense of common history.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Nationality, I feel like this one's straightforward too. but it gets people. So the status of belonging to a particular nation.
Pretty
Self-explanatory.
right.
You would think.
Correct.
You would think.
That's what I'm saying. I just want to define things just so that we're just all on the same page.
Right.
Everyone
You have to remind
listening to this
yourself,
in the
though.
future, we're
Right.
all on the same page.
Got it.
So, okay, now we get into it. What is the difference between being Black racially and being Black culturally? If y'all want to marinate, I could go first.
Yeah.
I'll go first. I'll go first. So for me, there is a difference between being Black racially and being Black culturally.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very nuanced in and of itself. Racially, walking down the street, everyone on this earth can agree, I came from Africa. I don't think there's any confusion about where my hair texture, my phenotype, my skin tone, my body type, my body composition. I am a person that came from indigenous Africans, and that's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So where I think the confusion for me and why I asked this question is Black cultural means a particular cluster of people in the diaspora. So Black, we use that as a label for our ethnicity of being American descendants of slaves. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that's kind of confusing, but it's like it comes from the fact that, you know, over time, we've changed the term and changed what we label our ethnicity. And that has grown and changed with our community. But it just comes, we're just a cluster of Black folk in this country, in this so-called melting pot, which is actually like, I don't even know what to call it at this point. There's no cohesion or anything. So I can't even do what Jane Elliott said and call it a mixed salad, because it's not. But you know, we have been people that have come from different tribes of people through the transatlantic slave trade that have now had a shared commonalities in our culture. So I think that's what it is. What say y'all?
I think I agree. Like, obviously, you know, I'm Black, but I do think, and this is like really embarrassing for me to say, I don't think I culturally maybe identified until I was a bit older. Like, I think I had the potential to be like Candace Owens if I didn't leave this godforsaken state that I live in. But as I got to college, I started to kind of like adapt a bit into that. Although my parents are immigrants, right? So they're Black, but that's a different type of culture. As a whole, I don't think I really stepped into my Blackness until later in life.
I would agree. Like 100-fold. I grew up as the kid that people would say, you talk white. I grew up as the kid that had, and that's really just because my mother was a teacher. So she was like, we're not using that type of language. We're going to be using this type of language.
We're the same person.
Right. So like I had to grow up in a space where like I'm clearly Black. My parents are middle class. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. So my community is Black. I'm around Blackness constantly, but I have to prove my Blackness. So that's where, and I agree with you, Dar, that I wasn't in a space of feeling comfortable with my particular flavor of Blackness until I got older to understand that Blackness is going to look different, or at least if you look Black, you're allowed different versions of Blackness, but we'll get into that later. So I feel that there are differences. You would assume one who is Black just naturally belongs to the Black culture, but that is not necessarily the case. And I've found that even if you are Black, there are certain Black markers that the community expects for you to hit for you to be able to say, yes, I culturally identify as being Black as well.
Yeah.
To note too that it wasn't just the white people who were saying things like, "Oh, you're an Oreo, you're a Coco." It was the Black people,
Black kids as well.
different.
I want to say that I identify with you, B. Like, my mom is a teacher. I'm a second. I worked in marketing and PR that's my contribution to the community. But I'm a second generation educator. I work in elementary school and Title I schools in Houston. And my mother was a teacher. So I had the exact same, you have to speak a certain way, you have to present a certain way, you can't dress a certain way. And that gave me a concussion a few years ago. I keep having concussions where I feel like I hit my head because my Blackness now is so different than my Blackness as a kid and as an adolescent. Because even though I grew up listening to the Temptations, Prince is my first time love, like of all time, Whitney Houston, my life was very Black. My parents are from the South Side of Chicago. I am very much Black, but when you're Black at home, your Blackness at home, I think as a kid is singular compared to the Blackness that you go out into the world, that you go to school with. So if the kids you're going to school with all speak in AA or BVE, or they're from a different, their parents are not educators, or their parents are different jobs where they don't have to code switch as much, your Blackness is measured differently when you're out in the world. So it's like the Blackness I have now, just like Daria was saying, is so much more rich, I would say, than it was when I was younger. But I would never discount my inner child's Blackness. I would never discount her Blackness because it was different. And I also grew up in the 90s where there was so much diversity everywhere. So it's kind of misleading. Even like the cartoons and stuff we watched had a lot of Black kids on it, or even like Skeeter on Doug was the Black kid, even though he wasn't Black, So it's like all the theme songs were written by Black, like there was so much Blackness in everything. So it's measured differently. So I don't know. I guess I'm more Black now, but I can't say more because it's just different.
Yeah.
I know y'all get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know, because I grew up in Boston in itself, but I grew up in my own little see, and here's the thing, we exist here. I know I've heard
I'm praying for you, sis.
Listen, so many times, like my mom was traveling back and forth when she was like, working, and they were like, she's like, oh yeah, I'm from Boston. People in DC were like, there's Black people in Boston. I mean, I know it's a new phenomenon. People are just so weirded out, but here I am, okay, a Negro in Boston, okay, I exist, okay, there's a lot of us. And I think that when people hear, oh, well, I don't live in Boston anymore, I live south of Boston, and that's a whole different argument for people who live in Massachusetts. But it's kind of like, oh, well, I never see, I'm like, because you go to like Fenway and you go to see the Red Sox and you go to these established little areas where these established little areas used to be ran for and by Black people. Okay. And then gentrification happened, and it's still happening. We're still getting booted out into different areas and things. I lived in Boston up till I was about 8 years old. And so going to school, I will say one thing about it, Massachusetts is very a potluck state, but the Boston itself is very potluck. So I've never had a situation where it was me and the Black kids and like those are the white children and those are the Latin kids, and like it's never been that. It's always been a mix, a turn of. What I will say was eye-opening as I got older is when I went and started going into Catholic school and learned that Haitian people existed. Didn't know what those were. Okay. I didn't know who people were. I didn't know different descendants of this and that and that. The only thing I knew was Caribbean people because my sister was obsessed and will still want to marry Beanie Man to this day. Okay. That's the only thing I knew was Caribbean music. So and in that factor, I just knew Jamaica. So that's it. All I had was Black, white, Asian, Latina, Jamaica. That's all I had. And maybe that's just because I didn't let my brain access more than it should have. But I think it's just, I want to say I was an innocent kid, but it was just one of those, I just kind of let life be what it is. I got introduced to who it was and everything and learning about Haitian people. And then I was like, okay, now there's Haiti. Cool. So then when I went to public school and someone's like, oh, well, I'm Trinidadian, but I'm Ghanaian, but I'm Nigerian. I'm like, what? Guys, from third grade to seventh grade, I was in a very Catholic school. So I know you're probably like, how at this age, by the time I'm 13, my brain went, there's a world. This is crazy, and that's when I started learning about, history and, you know, the US slave, like I was learning more slavery or anything because my mother ran like Martin Luther King Day and everything. So my mother made sure. My mother was the mother that was out at the store past the time it was closed during Christmas time to make sure her babies got black dolls. Okay, without question. My mother has always made sure she oversaturated Blackness within us. So I don't think I've ever grew up with my race and my culture being separate. It's always been just a one, you know, like, you know, that's just what you are, that's who you are. And so I've never teeter-tottered in that section. I will shamelessly say that back then when I didn't know any better, I was a kid that teased the kids about, you know, just why do you listen to that kind of music? Why are you like that? Like, you know, because in my house, I know. But in my household, like Lavender said, like your household and your outside environment could have been two whole different complete things. Mine was one and the same. I've never had to separate who I was home to versus who I was outside of my home. And even being a radio personality, I always used to gloat like, oh, my English teacher always said, like, you know, I spoke so well, so elegant. I had so much to give and everything. And then I got older and I was like, was he gaslighting me? Was these with these like, you know, because you start learning some things. And you're like, I don't know. What did,
Like that wasn't
was
right.
that a microaggression?
Yeah.
You know, like but then you hear it from other, like, you know, people who are of you, like, oh no, you have a very good voice for it. I'm like, okay,
Right.
all right. He was just okay, verified, you know. So I think being in, like Coco said, she's like, I'm still a suburban. I still live at home. You know, it's crazy out here. It's too much money to live on your own. So in that regard, like being and growing up in the suburbs, I just never had to have that difference. So I've always thought it's one and the same, but obviously in my now third decade of living, I'm now starting to see, I know I just turned 30. I'm just getting used to it. I'm starting to see thank you. I'm starting to see.
Welcome to this side.
Thank you. I'm part of the group. I'm part of the group. I'm starting to see, I don't want to say the difference, but the split where one could take an action and think that's the whole, and it's not. It's much deeper and it has much deeper roots.
Yeah,
I'm gonna piggyback off that because I think that one of the things that bind us all together racially is that globally that kind of colors, no pun intended, it kind of colors our experience. And so especially being in America where we do have so many different ethnicities of Black, before I actually ask that, let me back up the truck. We're going to ask that secondly to this. Let's utilize that whole different ethnicities of Black, and let's talk about Gina Torres. Okay?
Who?
Gina Torres. I didn't prepare the clip. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm a horrible YouTuber.
And I'm like, who's Gina?
Gina Torres. So someone posted a clip on TikTok, and for me, the caption of it kind of was trying to incite something. So basically she had a roundtable discussion with Latino women. And she was telling her experience about being an Afro-Cuban coming to America and becoming an actress, and her getting roles instead of African-American people because she had the look that the white folk were looking for. She has curly hair, lighter skin, a thinner nose, but she clearly looks Black because she's Black. So she was saying that there was an expectation of the people filming of her to portray an African-American woman, but she didn't really have a connection to that because she's Cuban. And so some people were kind of,
oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I just Googled it too.
Well, let me Google it too, because I was trying to pay attention. I was trying to pay attention.
Let me see if I can share it. Let me see.
Because once I Googled it, I was like,
I was trying to pay attention. I was
okay,
like,
let me share the screen.
Visual.
Let me see.
Yeah, I just need to, because I seen a video.
Okay, so let me see if it'll let me
TikTok
share it from my phone.
Like that, where it was like a bunch of Afro Latinas giving their experience of being an actress in Hollywood. and having to portray Black actors or like, or only be.
It was just Gina Torres.
Oh, okay. So this
was just Gina Torres. Gina Torres.
Yeah, she was part of it. She was part of it. Yeah.
So wait, can y'all see my screen?
Wait,
hold on.
Screen sharing.
Yeah.
Hold on, y'all. Y'all know me and the
I
technology.
do like her in that show. That 911.
Okay, so let me. Okay, can y'all see?
Yeah.
Let me make sure the speaker is on.
You're so quick and efficient. Wow, look at this.
Okay.
I think a lot of us have had to still deal with that, still have to deal with living in the both worlds. But Gina, you were forced to embrace one identity in Hollywood, right?
I feel like I was living in three worlds. There was my world that I grew up in, also Spanish speaking, home, Cuban parents, and then you go out into the world and I'm speaking English and I'm in the Bronx, South Bronx, having a great time. That's right.
Yes.
And then going into this industry as an actress, then nobody recognizes you as either one.
Yeah.
There was no place for me as a Latina. And then as a Black woman, I didn't identify as a Black woman because for me it was cultural.
Right.
Because of course I present Black, I am a Black woman, I am also Cuban. When you're here in the United States and they ask you to be in a box and you don't fit into the box, culturally it was different. It was not one that I identified with. But to work, to survive, it was something that I had to learn. To then learn to be whatever Black was.
It wasn't until I had an accident in 1990 where I was...
And I stopped caring about what Gloria Estefan had to say. I'm sorry, and I don't know. No shade.
It was the pause for me.
So I'm just curious about that.
So my thing was, of course, to me, if we're not all on the same page as what race versus ethnicity versus nationality is, I could see how we got lost in translation. But as a Black woman, I understand she doesn't have my same experience in terms of being American Black.
Right.
Globally, do we have the same experience? Yes.
That's what I think is like, that's what I was saying. Like, so my parents are Caribbean, right? So that's the Black that I felt. We ate the foods. I listened to the music. I was like, I'm Black. And then
because you Black.
Right.
The difference is a boat drop off. Low key, it's a boat drop off.
Yeah, very much so. And the migration. It's the drop off and the migration.
They're telling you that you're not Black enough. And I was like, but I was just Black. Like I was just being Black, but I'm not the right kind of Black because I guess I wasn't.
You're not the right ethnicity of Black.
Right.
And so for me, one part for me was, I mean, we got to be FFR. I don't expect white folk that's handing out jobs to give a fuck about the different ethnicities of Black and how we're all different. We're culturally different. They didn't care when it was taking us from Africa. They definitely don't care now. Yeah. So, I mean, I get that, but I mean, amongst ourselves, and I get that it can, for some, be confusing that we're calling our ethnicity Black, and that's the next question on here. I guess I'll just ask the question instead of going on a diatribe. Okay, so do we need to start making a delineation when speaking about Blackness between racially and culturally? Or should we rename our ethnicity?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's why Gina's having such a difficult time understanding her experience, because she's absolutely correct. She's not going to have the same.
Push back on that.
Go for it.
I don't think she's confused. I think people in America are confused about us.
I will
okay.
I think because she's like, for me, she speaks Spanish.
You're right.
It's like she's just doing her normal everyday thing as a Black woman, and they're like, not that kind of Negro. Something different.
Yes.
You're like a spicy Negro. We want like
spicy Negro.
Yeah. They want the fried chicken collard greens Negroes.
Like spicy white.
They don't want
spicy. She's spicy negra. But you're correct. You're correct.
There you go.
She is very aware of her experience. we as Black women from America are very aware of her experience.
Mhm.
To your point, Coco, everybody in Hollywood is not going to be aware that there's Trinidadians and Nigerians and Ghanaians and
care.
Jamaicans, that there are going to be so many different African people from the African diaspora. That is going to make our experiences different. For instance, we as Black American women, if I say God is good,
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
and all the time,
God is good.
that is a part of our American culture. That's something that we, growing up in America, it don't matter if you're from the South, from the West Coast, East Coast. If I say that in a room of Black people from America, we know what's going on. I don't think Gina would have understood that, but that's understandable because where we relate to Gina is how she moves through the world globally as a Black woman, because that's why she's had, unfortunately, to fit in that box to make enough money to be able to like feed herself and eat and work, which is absolutely fucked up. But at the same time, I think that's why we need to make the line in the sand of what this all means, because we're having a lot of conversations where I'm starting to realize that Black Americans on a global scale just have all this hate. And a lot of people have a lot of words about Black Americans. I think the discussion now on TikTok is African people or Caribbean people saying if you ask a Black American where they're from, they're going to say Louisiana. No, where are you really from? Baby, I'm from Louisiana. Like, because that is my experience.
When they drop, for at least for me, because look, I outside of my line, I was the first one born outside of Louisiana since they brought us here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on Ancestry. We moved from Mississippi hundreds of years ago, and before that we was in Virginia. But other than that, on my mama's side, we've been in Louisiana since they dropped us off here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you want me to say? And even with that, it comes with a whole different subculture. We eat different, we speak different, we do different things, we wear different clothes than someone that grew up in Baltimore or Sacramento or someone like me that grew up in the Pacific Northwest. It's just all of it. We're all threaded together because of our history. But if I tell you I'm from Louisiana, that's where I'm from. And if you don't understand
you that, like, are other Black people asking you that? Because if somebody tells me that they're Black, I'm not asking you, but really, where are you really from?
I've never said that. Never asked that.
Though, that people who are not in the that are not American Black, if like she was saying, like B was saying, if they're from like Ghana or somewhere else, they're gonna ask us questions that we are giving the most authentic answer to, but that to them is not enough because we should know. Why would we know that?
Right.
It's been hundreds. I just went to DC a few months ago and did my lineage on my dad's side, and everybody, all the slaves, Mississippi. I couldn't find anything further than Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
We're from Mississippi. And if you want me to know where my tribe, I don't know that. Yeah. And you know why I don't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it also is concerning to
you know
me.
why we don't
You know why.
it.
Why are we asking the elephant in the room the question? Like, we know.
Why are you in this room?
It's like, okay, I get it from people that are on the continent. Okay, cool. But it's kind of like, why do you accept when Caribbean people tell you they're from somewhere? You accept that. But if I'm telling you I'm from America, and to bring it down to my tribe level, I'm from Louisiana, because if you're Nigerian, I ask you, okay, but who are you really?
Yeah.
And you say Igbo, okay, what am I say about that?
Yeah, exactly.
What am I going to say about that?
The Caribbeans are like, I think the Caribbeans only came from one place. Like, I know we all came from one place, but I think people accept when they say Caribbean because I don't know how to explain it. Like, they were taken from Africa, but basically like their whole identity.
It's rooted.
It's rooted there, but they're Caribbean. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
but again, that goes back to that's being different culturally though.
Your
cultural came from we all came from the same place, but the reason why we're different ethnically is because we have different experiences in whatever landmass we were on.
Right. I think it mainly depends on where you're located, like where you are, I guess, essentially, because even in, I guess, the Caribbean, let's just say, if you say, like, let's just choose Jamaica as a country. You could say like, oh, you're okay. So if you are Jamaican, you lived on, and you're like, oh, where are you from? They can say, I'm from Kingston. Okay, cool. That's fine. I know that place. But then they could say another place, and they could judge you off of that. Like, oh, you're over here in the Kingston. You're not King. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think we all do. I mean, let's look at New York. I don't care about the 5 boroughs. That it has nothing to do with me, right? But listen, people be like, I'm from Brooklyn. So that's different from the Bronx. You damn right. It's different
Yes,
from
it is. Absolutely.
but you see how defensive you got? Your hand got
That's
up.
true.
You was like, hold on,
Because
sis.
the west side of Chicago is different from the
You
south
get what
side
I'm
of
saying?
Chicago.
Like, you
I'm
know what
gonna
I'm saying?
tell
Like,
you
I can
that
say
now.
I can tell people I'm from Mattapan, aka Murderpan, but I'm like, that's whole different from Roxbury. Like, you know,
It's real.
It's different. Like, it's where you're from, which I think makes it like a lot different. So I think when you're talking about the motherland, the originator, the creator, when you have people from there who are saying, well, where are you from? I think it's because they don't stop at, oh, I'm Nigerian, I'm from Nigeria. To me, I'm like, okay, that's the end of my sentence. I don't need to
Right.
I wouldn't say
ask
that
you anymore. But
like,
then it's like, okay, but are you Igbo or what else are you? They go deeper and deeper and deeper
I
until
feel
you
like
get to
it would be
the littlest bit.
disrespectful to say that, because okay, I just did my DNA, right? So it says Nigeria, it says Ghana, but it would be disrespectful for me to say I'm Ghanaian, but I don't know shit about Ghana.
I don't know nothing about it. Exactly.
I'm 44% Nigerian. For me to walk around here saying I'm Nigerian,
Exactly.
I'm not that nationality wise. I'm not that
I don't know.
ethnically. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
But even like with like names or something, like I was talking to a guy who was Nigerian and like, you know, his name gives that it's not an American based name, right? And so I was like, oh, like I know somebody with this name. He's like, oh, well, say it to me. And I'm like, oh, it's Kalu. He's like, that doesn't sound Igbo. He must be another tribe. I'm like, okay, like we don't do that. I don't tell somebody goes like, oh, what's your sister's name? Keisha, like, she must be from Mississippi. That don't sound like it rains here in Massachusetts. Like that, it's a difference. Like it's like they have to find out like your name means something in the tribe that you're in. It derives from something. It's a part of that language. So I can almost understand from somebody from there saying like, well, give me something else. What's the deeper, like the deepness of you, like, you know. But like I made a video on TikTok like, oh Lord, the end of 2020. And I was like, I'm tired of people like, oh, you're Black. Well, like, well, what do you like? What are like trying to get deeper? And I'm like, I'm Black. Like, there's nothing. I'm like, you want my ethnicity? Slavery. That's my background. That's my DNA. Black national. I'm American. My ethnicity is slavery. My race is Black. What more do you want me to do? Like, that's literally all I can give you because that's all I have. And when people inquire, like, why are you doing the ancestry thing? Why are you doing? Because I'm like, I love seeing people celebrate their independence days. I love seeing that people have their dishes for these certain soup jamon for like January 1st. Then you have like independent. Like I love when people have these things and they're like, these are ours. We took it back. We made what you gave us that gave us trash and we took it back and we made it ours. And I love seeing that. But then I had to grow into knowing that's what we did too. The scraps that they try to give us to poison us, we made that. We culturally made that. And that is what now? Soul food. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
that I think that there's a resistance still to other Black people in the diaspora accepting that American Black is Black. It is a Blackness. It is I think that because why are you still asking us these questions? Why are you giving pushback on if I say I'm Black, but from where? From where Blackness originated, to be honest, because nobody referred to themselves as Black until we were called Black. That wasn't a thing other places. They might have said, well, they are a Black person to describe. But I believe that Blackness originated with the American Black ethnicity. We are the blueprint for Blackness as a culture.
Yes.
I think. Personally,
I agree with you because when my parents,
completely,
when they describe themselves, they're Antiguan, they're Dominican. Nobody's asking them what their color is. They are Antiguan. That's how they identify. It's here that people are calling them Black, but they don't call them. Everybody's Black down there. Nobody calls themselves
everybody's Black. So there's no reason to call anybody Black. Right.
Everybody's
but I think there is pushback because we, like you said, we have accepted this. You gave us this trash and we turned it to treasure. You know, you gave us seeds, we put it in our hair. You gave us scraps and we turned it into soul food, just like you said. And I think there's pushback because other places in the diaspora, they haven't had to do this. They haven't had to create a culture from trauma. That's what we did, is we created a culture from trauma and we celebrate it, and it's rich. Where else in the world has that really happened on a scale like this? And I think that there's still a pushback because there's so much strength in what we have done over the generations to make Blackness a thing. We gave birth to a culture that wasn't a thing. We were taken from different places and we put that together. We are a melting pot, if you will. Blackness is its own melting pot. So I think these questions come from a little bit of anti-Blackness, because it's really sad to me when I see Black people in the diaspora being anti-Black because they don't understand that version of Blackness because it's not their ethnicity.
I think, to go off what you said, like, you know, who else has done, and I really think about this. We're really the babies of reformation of who we are, right? So you have from the 1800s, like early 1800s Haiti gaining their independence. You know, I think that the year is correct. If it's wrong, please correct me. But like, you know, and other countries gaining their independence and having that for such a long time. And then here we are, like, you know, in the babies of it, really, in like the longevity, they've had to been able to take that back and had their generations over and over and over again enriched in that culture. And this is who they are. Where, like you said, we have cultivated and still are making who we are today out of that. You know, we're still giving the yeses and the nos, and yeah, that's okay to do, and the no, that's not okay to do. I mean, like 20 years ago, the things that we say and do now, like 20 years ago, a lot of people would be a lot more canceled than they are right now.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Dictators.
Like,
that is
yes,
so true. We're
exactly.
literally the cultural dictators.
Yeah, so we're literally still carving what is being Black in America today. You know, today, like some people just forget, like when we bring up Emmett Till, people are like, oh, well, you know, I'm like, baby, that was Emmett Till, like my mother's like 4 years younger than Emmett Till would be today. Okay. So don't give me like, oh, well, these things happened so long ago. They didn't. These people are still, Carol Bryant is still alive today. These people are still alive today. Right. Your grandmama and granddaddy who was in those postcards smiling with a slave hanging from the tree, they alive to you going to visit me, mom and papa today in the resting home, right? They're still around today. So we're still cultivating and figuring out who we are now with only such a short amount of years separated from Jim Crow.
Maybe that's why they're asking. Maybe that's what's off-putting to them, is that they have these cultures, right? They've all this time they've been able to just kind of hone it, right? So It just kind of seems like we ain't got nobody, like we ain't got no home training, like we're still trying to figure out where we belong, right? So maybe I'm just trying to see the other side of it. Yes, it feels anti-Black, but I'm also just like, is it pity? Is it
like anti-African American? There's this sense of propaganda that is global about specifically African Americans, where you don't even face the same type of stereotype if you're African, or if you're from South Africa, or if you're dark skinned and you're from Australia, if you're from the Netherlands and you're dark skinned, if you're from the Caribbean, you don't face the same type of stereotype that African Americans.
Absolutely.
If
because
anything,
they're unique, exotic, and have culture.
You have, or you're hardworking. Like if you're, let you be Nigerian. Of course, if you're Nigerian, because I've seen it. If you're Nigerian in Italy, you're going to face racism. But they're at least going to be like, "Oh, you're here for work, aren't you? Let my Black ass American ass be there." And they're like, "Oh, she's here to prostitute. She must be putting out." There's a different stereotype about us that even other Black and brown people around the world believe about us. There are Caribbean people who, I just watched a TikTok about a Caribbean woman who said that she grew up hearing she's not to date African American men. There are Indian men. There are Indian men who've been dating Black women his entire early 20s, and then he turned around and then married an Indian woman. We as African Americans, even amongst other brown and Black people, have been the bottom of the barrel because the American propaganda about who we are, oh, it's amazing. It gets around. It's global about how we're lazy, how we're violent, how we're over-sexualized, how we don't have any money, how we floss, how our time management skills are crazy, how we are overfilling the jails, how we are unemployed. And everybody believes that shit. So yes, we have to now come back and reclaim what Black American culture is, because everybody else who told our story told it wrong.
Yeah. And my friends say the same thing.
To point out that like the propaganda was coming from the country that also, when you think about it, the country that we belong to in and of itself comes with its own reputation.
Right.
Like, I don't know about Americans that ain't never been nowhere have this overinflated sense of self that makes them think that around the world we're revered, when around the world they really can't stand our asses, like at all.
I do not tell people I'm American when I travel.
Embarrassing.
I try not to.
I do not tell people I'm American when I travel.
Then to have that bad baby kid tell you that y'all shouldn't be upset at us because we got these brown baby kids. Like, it wasn't like the world was watching and like projected that onto us. Like, the country we come from was like,
put that on us ourselves. Exactly.
Don't trust them. They're lazy.
Yeah.
They stopped working for free.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know.
But just to even go off of what B said, like, I have friends who, like, you know, like Dari, like, who are like first born Americans, like, you know, in this country, and have told me like their mother's like, you're acting like them Black American, you're acting like them Black kids, you know, getting your ears pierced and wanting to do this and wanting to do that. And they saying this to me, and these are people I've known for like since I high school years. And I'm like, they said what? Like, yeah, like they brought their kids here and they were like, do not mimic what those Black, and it was, I'm like, but you Black too? But okay, we're Black. Okay, we're Black in derogatory sense. Heard you, sis. Okay, so don't mimic what those Black kids are doing. You don't pierce your ears. You don't sag your pants. You don't listen to this music. You don't speak this way to your parents. You don't, you know, all those things. And I think it gives, and it's still in that moment, still gives the, you know, when you tell your mother a story, or your mother sees a story on TV and she stews in it, knowing you haven't done anything like that, but she stews in it. And then when you come in the room, like, hey, mom, like, if you ever in your life do these things, right? Yes. And it's just like, I feel like that's them. Like, they were seeing what was portrayed and thought of us, and then stewed in it and said, this is what they're doing. If you ever should come home and do like these Black children are doing, that's your behind, you know? So I think that also has something to do with just the separation of it all. And it really shouldn't be like, I'm Black. Like, you know, when I go to like the Dominican Republic, they're like, I'm Black, you Black. I'm like, yes, brother, we're here. Like we love, because when I just traveled,
reminded me of a story.
Yeah, when I tried to like Puerto Rico, DR, like this man's just like, I'm Black, you Black, we Black. I'm like, yes, you're so happy to see me. I appreciate it, and I love that because it brings back like a joy. Like, okay, we're not so separated. They're happy I'm Black. They're happy to see like Black people touring. Okay, cool, love it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell this brief story, and we're gonna dive into the second part of this, which is mixed race and biracial, and I'll say multicultural because, you know, that's a thing of its own. But back in my day when I was dating, I was talking to this man, and he was about my skin complexion. We have the same hair texture. And one morning I'm on the phone talking to him driving to work, and he was like, I was talking about something about being Black. I was like, you're Black, something. He goes, I'm not Black, I'm mixed. And I said, with what?
More Black.
He said Puerto Rican and Dominican.
Oh, you're Black.
I was like, sir, but why is your mama darker than me though? But you're not Black.
Was he going with the Afro Latino? Like, would he do that?
No, not even part? That. He didn't even claim Afro Latino. He said he was mixed, which he's not wrong, but he's not right.
Right.
But
right. Well, I guess, would you claim that as multicultural?
He's ethnically
multicultural before multi-race.
Yeah, I would say multicultural because it's two different.
He's multicultural. I didn't say he was multiracial. He's multicultural.
Yeah.
Right. He's one race. But that leads me to my questions.
Well, that is actually a really interesting point. I'm curious about that though, because if we're talking about culture, I'm being selfish because I got
culturally, I would give him he's two different cultures.
But I thought culture is what you engage in. So if he doesn't engage in the culture, is he multicultural or is he multiracial?
Well, from what I heard, Dominicans speak a lot faster in Spanish than other countries, and then they also have their own nuances than Puerto Ricans and like saints from Spain. So like I feel like it would be.
So what I think you're asking is like,
yeah,
because to me, right, and when we get into these questions, I believe culture follows the mother because the mother is the person running the household. So she's the one cooking the food, keeping the traditions, picking out the clothes, teaching language, reading, singing, all of those things.
That
So
used to be
I
a
would
rule,
default
too.
to whatever his mother is. That's
Fair.
probably predominantly his culture.
Right.
But if you are a person that has active two parents, and you may have, you know, I mean, I think it's easier with like maybe if someone was an Ethiopian Jewish person mixed with an Igbo Nigerian parent.
Oh, that's different.
Like you go to you practice everything that's Jewish on one side, but maybe you go to your Igbo cultural things. So if you're being raised in both of those things, I would say you're multicultural because you're actually being raised in both those things. But in terms of culture, I would just default to whatever the mother is, unless someone tells me I was raised in both of these things.
Yeah.
But racially, he had a Afro Puerto Rican father and an Afro Dominican mother. Like both of your parents came from Africa. Like I don't know what the confusion was, and he may have been like, I'm not Black ethnically, but when it came down to, but you look, he didn't want to claim it.
Yeah. I can see Lavender's eyes. Lavender's eyes when you was like, you are what your mother is, and I see her eyes going, okay, let me break with the equations like going around her head, like. But I will say,
I do believe in matrilineal traditions and stuff, but at the same time, I don't want to discount, like, if you come from a mother-father household or two-parent household.
I mean, I don't say that to say that the fathers and the men don't set culture, but when it comes down to it, I mean, with some men, depending on their culture, they go off with the men and the men teach them.
I just never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
You're trying to sit and be like, okay, because if you have a parent who's Korean and then you have a parent who's Black, like if your mom is Korean, she is probably doing most of the cooking, unless the dad is like a chef or something. You're absolutely right, because of the patriarchy. So even culturally, the patriarchy doesn't escape. So it's like
that damn patriarchy.
You're right. Like when you said that, I was like, oh, I'm having a concussion. I never thought about that.
But there was
I just accepted that, like, even though the men say this is our culture, that at the end of the day, a woman gonna have to tell the child that to begin with.
Yeah,
right.
But there was a rule. If I remember watching, I forgot that Black man's name who has the glasses, who does all the ancestry thing for all the celebrities, right? When he was doing Wanda Sykes, it was the rule back, whatever you were born out of your mother is what you were, right? So when one of Wanda's ancestors was born, the mother at the time was free. And therefore, once she was born out of a free woman, the rest of the family lineage was free from then on, because it was born out of free. And I think that still still stands. As like, what you're born out of is what you
do a book plug, because you just
what you
me
of what
that.
you
There's
are.
a book that explains that exact thing in its entirety, and it follows free Black women from Senegal and through enslaved women that came from Senegal through the New Orleans, and all those nuances of free versus enslaved in both of those clusters. And let me see, I'm gonna make sure I get the book correct, because it's authored by a Black woman. If you have the Hoopla app, it's connected to your library card, and you can read any books that your library has for free. It has audiobooks too. The book is called Wicked Flesh: Black Women, Intimacy, and the Freedom in the Atlantic World, written by Jessica Marie Johnson, and the audiobook is read by Michelle Williams. Not to be confused with the top 3 bad bitches of the world, but Michelle Williams.
Michelle Williams. Okay.
Yes, Michelle Williams.
Okay, not DC3, Michelle Williams. Okay, I just want to.
I will say that is something that follows us as Black from Africa into the diaspora. About they really did, like, wherever, if like, I think in that book it kind of said that there was an enslaved woman whose husband was free, but because she was enslaved, the kids were enslaved, and he had to buy the kids back. And
they'll
so I'm
say
like,
born a slave. If you were born a slave, that means your mother was a slave. If you were born free, that means you're absolutely right. I never thought about that. When we talk about, we're going to talk about biracial. I have 2 biracial kids, and and I'm doing this because white isn't a race. Like, they're not, like, white isn't a race.
Look, they're trying.
It's not like
they're trying.
It's not a race. Like, it was made up. So, but it's like, I've had to sit with that because I'm like, okay, Blackness was made up, like Black as a culture was made up, but we actually have created traditions and a language and dialects and things off of Blackness. So we have literally like put ingredients in a pot and made a culture out of trauma and oppression. Whereas whiteness is something that is washing away culture. It's not a culture.
I will say, if anything, what they choose for it to be is just a classification.
But even if you
classification for their jobs, their capital.
If you ask a white person what their culture is,
they're gonna default to their ethnicity. Yeah.
I mean, Italian.
As a white person, right. They have football. Okay, that's a Black sport. What are you talking about?
They have hot dogs and hamburgers.
Hockey. I guess hockey is the one thing they can say. Hockey is
they don't wash below their nipples.
Stop it.
These people on these podcasts are speaking so loud about
stop admitting to it.
Wait, listen, the people on the podcast are talking so loud about how dirty the ring of their tub looks. Like, I just don't understand. Like, these people, I don't know if y'all seen it, but this couple was on this podcast and they talking about how they bathe their baby like once, maybe twice a week, like unless the baby's exceptionally dirty. And I'm like, what's exceptionally dirty to you? Because the last time I checked, a lot of y'all let your kids walk around with boogie nose and crusty mouths, and y'all say it's okay, and y'all say it's okay, and I'm just like concerned. Why you think it's okay? Like, messy babies are gross to me. I'm sorry. Like, they like kids already like dirty, and then when you have like a messy kid on top of that, it's like.
Do you know when I started to not worry necessarily? Okay, so I'm Black, obviously. My kid's dad is Ecuadorian and white. Anyway, the point is, right, is that when you look at her, you're not going to see white. You see more Hispanic than you do Black. But anyway, that's not even the point. The point is that I started to get pissed off when you start signing her up for stuff, doctor's offices, school. What's her race? What's her national ethnicity? And they don't even have one for her. Like, I can't even pick the right ones for her. And it's like, well, what is she going to be when she's older, right? Like, what are people going to see?
I'm gonna ask you the question. Y'all both have biracial children. Let me just ask y'all first. Y'all can answer first. So are biracial and mixed people, mixed meaning mixed race or mixed culturally, wait, hold on. Are they Black? I missed the spot. Are biracial and mixed people with a Black parent Black?
Yes, me.
Yeah, they have to be. They have to.
Okay, so the follow-up question. If so, racially or ethnically?
I'd say both. I think if they are going to receive the Black experience, like, I think about being Black is when I step out of my door, how is the world going to treat me? How's the law going
to? So that's all I ask. How do your children present them?
So with my children, if they're with me, they look Black, even though they're fair skinned. If they're with their dad who's white, they could probably be looked at as Hispanic.
Oh, racially ambiguous.
Oh yeah, yes, that's exactly right.
Racially ambiguous.
So it depends on who they're with.
There's no question that she's not just white. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though there's white in her, nobody would look at her and be like, oh, that's a white kid.
But does she have a Black experience or a brown experience?
Black. There's no way.
I think my daughters are going to have a Black experience because I'm willing it so. And I'm making sure that they are Black. They are in Black schools. They go to Black activities. I try to make sure all of their friends heavy on the Blackness. I'm trying to make sure that they have a Black experience so that when they grow up and they are not treated as little white girls as their dad would like for them to be treated as, they don't have a concussion, because I see a lot of biracial people having a concussion when they had a white mom. To go to y'all's point about what you're born as.
That was my follow-up question. I'm gonna ask y'all this and then we can come back to it for everybody else. Is there, or what is the difference between a biracial or mixed person with a Black parent when their mother is white versus their mother is Black? Does that change their ethnic experience? Because racially we can default to whatever you look like, because we know mixed kids, even with white or Black moms, they could be white, they could look like me, like all that kind of stuff.
You know that lady I only saw her on TikTok. Here's what I'm gonna say. even with white mothers, for the most part, they don't even try to learn the Black side. But even for the mothers who do their best, like there was this woman on TikTok who made a whole thing about learning how to do her Black girl's hair, right? It was a whole thing. Even when they try their absolute best to bring their kids into the culture, they're still going to be at a disadvantage if they don't also have a Black parent that's doing it for them.
And you
right?
can't bring kids into a culture that you don't have.
Right.
Like, you're always on the outside of that.
Right. So to your point though, Coco, if you're saying that it comes from the mother and the mother, one, isn't trying, or two, is trying but really won't be able to get there, if they have a white parent, are they really going to be considered?
They're not culturally Black, they're just ethnically Black at that point.
And then don't even get me started, but we're going to get to that question with the way that they present too. So that's a whole other thing.
Well, we're gonna drop that.
That's later.
Okay.
For me, I've had discourse with people on TikTok about this, and I've talked about this in content where I talk about if you are biracial or multiracially Black, if you have a Black experience, like if you have a Black parent, you have a Black experience, you are Black, you are in the Black community. And a lot of Black people will push back and be like, no, they're biracial, it's not the same. Like, no, I'm talking about if you have a Black experience, if you could be pulled over by the cops at any time and asked, why are you driving this car? If you will be followed around a store, and I hate to bring up traumatic things, but like, these are the things that I'm talking about when I worry about my children. How is the world gonna perceive them? I think about these types of scenarios. My daughters will not have a white girl experience, though their dad wants them to have that, they're not. And so when you have a white parent who's in charge, thank God I'm the one that's in charge of rearing them. But if they had a white mom, and then especially if their dad's not in the picture at all, they are going to grow up as a white kid because that's all their mom knows how to do. And then they're going to have a concussion when they get to a certain age, and they'll be confronted with Blackness hard, and they will not be prepared for it. You have to teach Blackness to your children as an active thing, especially when they may only be half or whatever that means.
So that's interesting too, because we're talking about Black and white, but in my experience, let's say it's Black and Hispanic, right? So I know how to be Black, so I'm gonna teach my kid how to be Black. I would love to get her to understand the Ecuadorian side of her, but I can't do that. Even if I did my absolute best, I would not be able to push her into that space. I don't even feel comfortable calling her an Afro-Latina, because is she really, until she gets older, is she really even in that space right now? No. So as of right now, technically she's just Black, right? But I feel like I'm erasing a side of her that's there, you know? So it's like this weird war that I'm in with myself.
B, Chase, what I got? I got the question. Are biracial and mixed people with a Black parent Black? If so, racially or ethnically?
I think they can be both. Like what Lavender said, like if given in the will and the power to put into it that person, I believe they could. And if with a white mother, because I feel like they're like Daria said, hair. That's all we see on these videos is, oh, I learned how to do it. Kim Kardashian. Oh, I learned how to do the hair. Someone taught me how to do the hair thing. I'm so glad North has plaits in her head. Like, so happy for that, right? But what are you doing, and what is Kanye doing when he's not to push that Black agenda into those babies? What is happening? And I'm not talking about bringing them up on a hill and having a choir sing Kirk Franklin. I'm talking about like, what is it that you're giving these children to let them know of their Black culture, their ancestry, like where they come from,
especially them dark-skinned boys he got.
Exactly. Because none of them kids are look even white passing at all. Like Chicago is the cutest little thing, but even then she got something going on, you know? So it's just like one of those things of like, what are you doing as a white mother to put into these children that this is who they are? Like, you know, I have a set of friends who are married, white mother, white Black father, and they have two little girls. One looks more white passing than the other, right? The older one is very racially ambiguous. Okay, you don't know what's going on there, but she got curly hair, green eyes. She has the features, but you just don't know. And the father and the mother has made sure they put in that work. Like they've bought her little Black girl books, little things like that. Like the father, like, and, you know, it's sad that you have to be certified card to be Native American in this country. but he's like, certified Native American, but also recognizes his Blackness in that. And he's like making sure that his kids, his girls more specifically, know you are Black. You come from a white mother. This is the thing, but
I'm gonna push against that, because even if, again, unless that white mother is surrounding herself in Black spaces and having Black friends and
yes.
I'm sure she is.
Oh no, I'll say in general. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Unless they're doing that, it's unfortunately not really going to be enough. That kid needs
kind of performative at that point.
Right.
Yes, you're definitely right. You have to encompass yourself in.
If you're not
a family,
comfortable, like because just because you have sex with a person of a different ethnicity or race does not mean you're pro that race or you're anti-racist or anything. Just because you like Black cucumbers does not mean you are pro Black men. That does not the same.
Right.
So so if you are not going to Black owned businesses, if you are not living in a Black neighborhood, if you are not going to a Black salon only, if you are not doing Black things as a white mom, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions so that your children have maximized Blackness, you're not doing the work. You are just, well, I did their hair. Cool.
Y'all just triggered me because my family, the Black men in my family went off and had all mixed kids, except for my grandfather. We'll talk about that a different day. But them mixed children grew up around us more so than their white side of their family. So with them, it's like, I guess for me, only thinking anecdotally and being in my Black bubble, it's odd to me that a person would have a half Black child and not bring them children around their family, especially when you don't share that same experience, especially like mothers that are there that are white and blonde hair, blue eyed. I digress. But that triggered me because I think a lot of it is very performative. I was going to court one day and I'm going up the escalator of the courthouse and I see these people in these matching shirts and they say the tribe on the back. And I'm like, what's going on here? They're all white. So I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? Yeah. I come to the down the hallway where everyone's congregating. They're two biracial children. They're clearly biracial. Like they got all the features that look like they, were biracial. And on the front, it says basically, we're the tribe raising this child. But I didn't see one Black face, not a mixed face, nothing.
Oh no.
They're using that damn word anyway. So.
And I'm like, first of all, we ain't gonna talk about the tribe on your back.
Right.
Second of all, I had to mind my business because I'm like, that poor child.
Yeah.
Like, I understand they may have the best intentions, but to have these clearly, visibly Black children being raised in a sea of whiteness and no one can explain to them why they're not being treated like everyone around them, it's crazy to me. Like, why would you do that to your child? Like,
and I already know y'all gonna be like, B, what the fuck? But I made a video on my TikTok that did some numbers where I talked about how a lot of Black men who have a decent amount of wealth need to be particular about how they're investing that wealth, because what we have found is that not all, but a percentage of Black men who have a lot of wealth date, marry, and have children with non-Black women. But when you die, all of your assets go to your non-Black wife and to your biracial children. And as you all were talking earlier, a lot of that.
For a second, I want to say, because no, you gonna. I want to say they're dying and their wealth is passing because they don't have wills. So it's not like they couldn't set it up to go to the Black children that they have or their Black family. No, they're having all this money, being the wealth of our community, and dying without wills and testate. That don't make no sense.
But they're ready to get a prenup.
That was my lawyer's splurge.
To everyone who is technically biracial or non-Black. So to plainly answer the question, I do think we need to start acknowledging the multiracial experience for what it is, because yes, they are Black, but they also are white. And and this might be a little too pro-Black, but I think there is something to us looking up and seeing a lot of our numbers change when it comes to who is in our communities in terms of Black, biracial, ethnicity, race, because it is getting to a point where we're washing out what Black actually looks like, so that we're now having to have these type of conversations because we have a very high percentage of multiracial and multicultural children now. And a lot of them, because we are in a patriarchal society where mothers are responsible for the children and the rearing, a lot of their cultures are the influence. And we've been talking, of course, all of the in my opinion, we're talking about the 10% of amazing women and amazing men who get down, read the books, do the work, get into uncomfortable situations. But the 90% is what we more so see. It is a white woman getting with a Black man who is a meal ticket. Particularly these type of Black men hate themselves. They hate Blackness. That's why they don't mind their children not learning about the Blackness. They were trying to run away from it themselves. And we see that particular prototype way more often than the inverse, unfortunately. I think it's unfortunate that we have so many multiracial and biracial children who have an identity crisis, but I also kind of feel like that's on purpose. I also feel like it's on purpose if you don't know where you are when it comes to numbers, when it comes to power, when it comes to Black wealth, the Black dollar, where we're able to build community. If these people don't feel rooted somewhere, I feel like that's on purpose. And that's where you need to have the parents be on their ass, the Black parent, the white parent, the Hispanic parent, the Asian parent. Everyone needs to be rooting their culture, because you can have a Naomi Osaka where you represent both your cultures beautifully, but that means two parents that sat down and did some goddamn work. And a lot of parents are not doing that. So we're seeing wealth leave our community. We see education leave our community. We see a lot of Black men and Black women, when they get a little money, they're like, peace. And that's totally fine. Love who you want to love. This is not my rant to say that interracial dating and interracial love is crap. But this is my way of saying, if we are finding that a lot of our wealth is leaving the community, or we have a lot of our family members who feel distant from our community, what are we doing to bring that back?
And another question, actually, because this is all kind of like, well, how do we see them, right? How do we approach them? And we do have to leave a little bit of space for how they are seeing themselves. But then the question also is, let's talk about Naomi just for a second. So she's Korean and Black, right? If she comes out and says, I'm Korean, then the question is like, well, what have we done, or what could we do to help her like identify with the Black experience, right? Like, so it's not just enough to say like, oh, well, no, she's Black, no, she's Korean. Like, I think we also have to hold some room for them to tell us what they are, all except people who are white presenting. That's a different.
I'm the type of person that says, tell me what you want to identify as, because I'm around a lot of biracial women and men who actually want to confirm, they want to address themselves as biracial, which is like new to me, because I grew up with the one drop rule, or if you a little bit of Black, you Black. Right. And now we're allowing spaces and having these type of conversations where a lot of biracial people are coming out and say, I want, like Kamala Harris, I want to identify with both of my sides of my family. And that is totally acceptable. We're seeing it be brand new, but I think that's where it's important for families and parents to really sit down and have those hard conversations.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So this is like,
because in a heartbeat, they'll be like, oh, we didn't have the first Black president. We have the first biracial president.
Yeah.
Because
like they both true. Yeah. I mean, it's both right. Like,
you want to be able to cut hairs, but at the end of the day, he had a Black, and that go back to the question, culturally or racially.
Racially, he
was a biracial man that had a Black ass experience.
Culturally, not so much.
I think it just depends on like how like we've all said, like if both parents involved, the closeness that you have, like even if your parents aren't together, if you're still connected to your father or your mother, whoever decided to trot off, right, or just mutually decide to split, if you still have that connection, then you're going to be like Naomi. You're going to hold on to that. Like, I am Korean, I am Black. That is who I am. But I feel like if it's just been mom, or if it's just been dad, or if mom has been in and out, dad has been in and out, you're going to attach yourself to whoever's been there supporting and like, the entire time. So what you are. Like, I had a friend in high school. This girl, oh Jesus Christ, what was she? She was like Indian and Haitian, I think. And it's just like one of those things where she never, I didn't even know the girl, like she had more Indian features, NDS features than she did having like a Black features. And therefore I was like, oh, you're Indian. You say you're Indian. That's it. I didn't know till like junior year that this girl was Haitian, she was Black at all, because she was not as close to her father. So she never brought that side up. It wasn't until we had like a Black school event, and she was just like, yeah, but I'm like, okay, girl, yes, for the Black people, ally, come on, girl. And she was just like, well, you know, I'm Haitian. I'm like, since when? When you I ain't never seen you wear red and blue and white on Flag Day. I ain't never seen you walking around here. Like, so where's this been?
Me, I feel like I never understood, like literally as a child, I never understood why mixed and biracial people were always categorized as one. I'm like, but they're not. And so for me, I guess I'm just thinking of like, well, that's the reality of it. Like they have two different color parents. That's just what happens. Like
they told them that they had to pick one. Not that they had to.
It's like society is just like you have to pick, and it's like
option. There's not another option.
No, that's what I'm telling you. There's not really an option for that.
When you choose, there's not other or multi. I just ignore it. So I always choose Black because that's what I am. So I never look at it. So like, is there like a multi, other? Can we have two circle dots?
That's
like
what bothers me is that, okay, she's other what? She's a friggin' alien. Like, let me choose what she is. Like, they don't even give
I think there's also a difference in having like a Black mother and an Ecuadorian father versus having a Black mother and a white father, or having a white mother and a Black father, or a white mother and a Korean father. Like, it's different. Like, if one of your parents is white, there is no culture there.
For sure. Yeah.
There's no culture. So I think by default, they're Black. Like by default, my daughter, I will never, like, when people look at her and they're like, or either one of them, they're like, what does their dad look like? I know what y'all are asking, because they're light skinned, they have to be biracial. In this chance they are, but they're Black. I make sure that my children are in Black spaces because they're never going to get the white experience. They are by default Black just because they came out of being, since we had that conversation, which I'm so glad we had, because that's opened my mind. Where you came from is what you are in this. So a biracial Black child who comes out of a white mother.
Like, well, I think this all circles back to people don't understand the differences between a racialized experience and an ethnicity. Right. Because Barack Obama, he has the shared experience of people that walk through the world as a Black person.
Yeah.
So out in the world, he is Black, but at home, I don't know how they was treating him at home, but at home, he was raised by a whole bunch of white folks.
Lavender, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because I love your concept, and I want to like dive a little bit more into it. Like, white is not a race.
Let's do it.
So if you're not specifically your situation, but if the biracial coupling was someone who was Greek or Italian or Russian, in your mind, do you see that to be more biracial, more multicultural than it'd be like some waspy white,
Wisconsin
American white?
Like I don't know if y'all follow Desiree B. Stevens, but I love her content. We talk all the time, but she is Black and her mother is Irish. And so when she talks about being biracial, she says, I'm Black and Irish, because her mother had an Irish cultural upbringing. So it's different. Yes, you're absolutely right, B. And if you are Irish or Greek or Italian or from Spain or somewhere where you may be racially white, but ethnically and culturally, you are something else. You have a whole rich culture. If you were to ask my ex-husband, what is he? He'd say, I'm a white guy. He's not going to say, I'm French or I'm this, or he's going to say he's white. But if you ask a person that is either first generation in this country or second, or they're from that country, they're going to say, I'm Greek. I am Russian. I am from this. So I think that when you have a cultural, you're like a spicy white, if you will, if you have a cultural aspect to your whiteness, which it's not white. If you're Russian, you're not white, you're Russian. So I think that that's different. Being Black and Russian, you have a rich cultural upbringing and language and food and all of that stuff. So you would be biracial in that sense. Yes.
I just want to, so I worked in the medical field, unfortunately. And
not unfortunately.
Honey, I can't anymore with it. And I work in HR in it now. But anyway, I rather work HR than do what I was doing beforehand. And at one point in time, I was like doing a call center. Basically, I was basically registering you. So if you ever got the annoying phone call of like, hey, we just say to want to register you before your appointment, so you have to stand on that 30-minute long line, whatever. That's what I was doing, right? And when I would get someone on the phone, it was, what's your nationality, what's your ethnicity, and what's your race? This angered me because I worked it for like a year, and that was everyday anger with each person I got on the phone, because when it came to the breakdown of it, I would say, like, and like I said, I live in Massachusetts. A lot of people came flowing, boats, whatever, we're here, right? So if they wouldn't say American, right, they would say like, for example, like, oh, I was born in Portugal. Okay, cool. Heard you. Whatever. You're in Portuguese. Cool. Then it goes to, well, race would actually be the first question. I was like, what's your race? He's like, oh, white. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I'm like, okay, and your nationality? They're like, Portugal or Portuguese. And I'm like,
yes.
Okay. Okay. And your ethnicity, oh, I'm Portuguese. I'm like, okay. And something about it would bother me so bad, because I'm just like, why would you put yourself down there? Like you have something, right? Like you have something, and you're so quick with like, and the ones that were kind of like white, I guess, is because they don't know, like they don't look at it that, like you were saying, Lavender. It's like you're saying, I'm Portuguese. I don't say I'm white. I'm Portuguese, right? And the ones who know that were like, I'm Portuguese. Oh, well, I guess I'm white. Like they would say it like that. But the ones who were like white focus, it was just like, oh, so what's your? I'm white. Okay, and your race? I'm Portuguese. Like I want you to say something else. Like I want you to have a different word. I want you to say, like one person said, I'm European, and then gave me like Portuguese as something else. Like they wanted to make sure they were, I'm not Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota. I'm not them. Them.
For what it's worth, some Portuguese people really do think
I am not
white.
Midwestern.
So
yeah, exactly. And every day I heard each person give it to me like different. Like now, if it was like somebody from diaspora, they're like, oh, Trinidadian. I'm like, oh, what's your race? I'm Trinidad. I'm like, so you're black? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, like, it's different. Everybody has like, they're like, I am who I am and what I'm from. So I guess that's the thing. Like, it's what I'm from is what I am. But I'm like, but what's the differences, babe?
The not understanding that like race is what precedes you. Like if we're all just walking down the street, not speaking to each other, not interacting with each other, what would you be classified as? Like make it real simple, but they want to, I don't know, there's some people that really love the melting pot that is whiteness, and they love that classification. And to feel superior within that classification, they'll pop out their ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
And then there's people that just don't get it. Like, what do you mean I'm white? I'm like, well, to the world,
yeah.
You get the white privilege.
Don't even get me started on the colorism piece of it, because you'll see somebody who's multicultural, multiracial. Oh, but she's got good hair. Oh, she's got such pretty skin. It's like, don't even get me started, because it's on some.
Well, let's do the flip side. I was going to talk about good hair, or because you have good texture. Yes. They say that you're mixed with something and you just can't simply be black.
Yeah,
because I had that on the flip, right? It's like, oh, she had something real nice. You Brazilian? No,
because I don't know if you like seen the video. I just posted that where a guy was like, unfortunately, went into a woman, was just like, oh, what's your nationality? I'm black. Like, oh, like you're not mixing nothing. She goes, no. Like, oh, well, it's just like your hair and everything. I'm like, no. He was like, oh no, you look good. And so my mind was like, so. And first of all, you said nationality. We're in America. Just assume. Anyway, that's just like whenever I see a truck fly an American flag, I'm like,
nope, danger.
No, there's nothing. You're not going to tell me. That's not going to tell me different. You're not going to tell me different, right? So I'm just like, not only did you confuse race, ethnicity, and nationality together. Okay, that's that one conversation. Now you're saying there's no way you could be purely black because you're
too pretty. Your hair is great. Your eyes are so nice. You're so skinny. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Like, no.
Fucking hate it. I literally, when I was in college, had an African guy come up to me because I answered some question beautifully. I'm smart as shit and cute. And that was the reason why he came up to me. And he was like, are you African? I'm like, African American? He's like, you were born here? I was like, yes, I'm born here. He was like, huh.
Do you know how many times that has happened to
He was like,
me,
you're smart and pretty.
people?
And I was like, what the fuck does that
Oh,
Apparently,
Lord.
African people also have this perception that African Americans can't be smart, articulate, on top of their shit, and also have amazing, gorgeous.
That's
meat.
wild because
That
the whole world wants what we have. That's wild.
Yes.
That everything is based off of us. Specifically, Black Americans, our
It's a little
fashion,
jealousy.
our music,
It's a little jealousy.
everything.
Because like I said earlier, we are the cultural dictators. So everybody's a little bit hating because, to the point earlier, we are able to revolutionize our culture. Everybody else is done. Everybody else is set.
It's over.
Everybody else
You
got
are
to
where
pass
you
laws
are.
to get
That's
their
it.
shit
It's
up and
over.
running.
Yes.
We are revolutionary every 5 to 10 years with our culture that everybody takes from us.
Yes.
That
It's just like,
in that, there's a little bit of jealousy. There's a little bit of hateration going on with that.
It's just like
All right, Mary
Keza
All right.
just posted a video where a girl was talking about, oh, the brown lips with the lip gloss, they're calling it brown sugaring or brown sugar
Girl,
something.
I was hot.
When I
was
seen
hot.
that, I
Haley
said,
Bieber
not
outta
our
here.
I was
lips.
hot.
I said,
Get her outta
not
here.
our to
Who said
go.
that?
It was a video.
Haley
Keza
Bieber
posted
posted
it.
a video of her using brown lip liner and clear gloss,
And it was
call
called
it
brown
brownie
sugaring or
glazed
sugaring something like. And I said,
Listen,
you
what's
took
her
our
maiden
to
name?
go. You took
Not
our
during
to-go makeup.
Hispanic
Like,
History Month.
Okay, like
Not
yes.
during
next
Hispanic.
we gonna discover
Yes,
who
baby.
girl.
Yes,
Like,
baby.
what's
When
going
you
on?
disrespect
That's
the
what happened.
Latinas like that.
You know
Yes,
what?
and I'm just
Actually a good isn't she what's her maiden name? Isn't she a Richie? Am I thinking of the wrong person?
Oh, she's a Baldwin.
Oh, Baldwin. Sorry, there was a Richie. Oh, Sophia Richie. Anyway, I thought you were.
No,
I
yeah,
thought-
that's what you're
Yeah,
talking
she's a
about, yeah.
Baldwin. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
my
And
bad.
I was just so shocked. I was like, not our lip combo. Not
Right.
not even lip combo, not our natural lip combo. Because there are people who walk around with that. And I'm so jealous because my skin bleeded to my lips. But we're not gonna get on that. Okay. It's a whole different story. But the thing is, it's just like, this is our I got it on right now. It's our lip combo. Like we just
Girl,
That's
literally.
this is what we do.
My skin. This is my
Yeah,
skin.
like
I
how
can't.
do you take that? And there's no way that y'all have been on YouTube Guru behind for decades, okay, and have seen every single Black makeup artist or want to be makeup artist or whatever do this stuff, and you go, I think I'm gonna make that my own. Like, what? No.
They don't have anything. They don't have
Like,
anything.
you've watched Jackie Aina 40 times at least. Don't play with me.
Jackie
Like,
Aina,
like,
they
come
don't have
on.
anything. They don't have any culture. That's what I keep saying. When we talk about people being biracial, we talk about whiteness. Whiteness isn't a thing. Whiteness is like a vacuum that sucks everything into. It's a black
I love
hole,
it.
a
Yeah.
white hole, if you
It's
will.
an absorbent.
Like
It's fun.
it just sucks
Fun, yeah.
everything
It's fun.
up. So it's like, of course they're gonna steal, but it's like Haley, what's her name? Bieber. She's married to Justin Bieber, right? This is what we were talking about. Her husband makes R&B music.
Right.
So like,
What happened to the pop, Justin? What happened to the baby? That's what I want to know.
And
Where
his
did that go?
R&B music is just there when he's not classified as an R&B artist.
Usher came out of nowhere and
Usher.
yeah,
It's
Usher
This
came.
is Usher's fault. All right.
It
This
is Usher's
what-
fault. It is Usher's
Right.
fault. It
Right.
is.
Right.
Damn Justin
I'm
in the
not here
box.
saying the
Damn
N-word.
him.
Behind every
listen.
white person's invite to a cookout is a black man trying to get
person.
Okay, because
And who's passing out these invitations? That's what I really want to know. Who printed them out? I
don't know, girl. Let's get into this white presenting and white passing
I can't. This is
conversation.
my favorite. I can't wait because
Oh, I didn't know this was the hot topic. I would have got
Right, come on with it. Come
I
on
wasn't
with
there
it.
for the whole Modern Warrior Miss Jones thing. I've
I
been
didn't know it was. I didn't know this was the thick of it. Okay, let's go. So, first question: are white presenting people Black? Well, white presenting people that come from Black people, Black, and if so, racially, obviously not, or
No.
ethnically.
No.
and
No,
I have a
sorry,
question-
not white passing. Sorry, let me back up. I didn't mean white passing. I meant white
Okay.
presenting. Sorry if I misspoke.
Okay.
So, are white presenting people Black? If so, ethnically or racially?
Can I ask for clarification? on
White presenting,
Yes.
please.
that? So, right.
Those
So,
two things are
so
different.
white presenting means that they have allowed to strip themselves of their culture.
No. So that's the opposite. It's the opposite.
white
It's the
people-
opposite. So white presenting is
You look white.
It could be any person of any ethnic or racial background with your parents.
Like Cameron Diaz and Christina Aguilera.
Yes.
Well, they daddies is white, so I don't know.
Still counts though. Like that still counts.
Well, their mamas are white too, though. So I don't know about them. No. So I'm saying mostly for me, I'm thinking of like pulling from where I'm from. There are a lot of Creole people that when you're walking down the street, you wouldn't clock that they're Creole. You would think that they're white.
Yes.
And so white presenting means that phenotypically, genotypically, hair, nose, eye color, eyebrows, facial structure, it looks white. We don't know what kind of white, but it looks white. White passing is they're white presenting and they're choosing to live their life as a white person, meaning they don't have any connections to their Black family.
Right.
They don't tell anybody that they're ethnically or culturally or racially anything. They present as white and they live as white by choice.
Oh, like Spacey
So
Dad.
Imitation of Life.
No, Imitation of Life. Yes.
Imitation of Life.
Yes.
Listen, that was the lesson learned movie in my grandmother's household. She's like, sit down and watch this movie. Like I just like just watch it. Right. And I was just like, not at the end, she on her mama casket.
Girl, it was Pinky for me.
I have to watch it. I've never seen this movie before.
You never seen Imitation of Life?
No.
I'm
gonna have to get with y'all on the links, the book link, the TV show. So
I'm not gonna ruin it for you. It's gonna get ruined for you. We're talking about it, but you know,
racially, they can't be Black. I don't culturally, though, it just depends on what their background is, like we've been talking about, but there's no way you have the Black experience being white presenting.
I think you can still be culturally Black, because if we want to talk about everybody in Louisiana that looks like a white person but isn't a white person, like whole entire families, like I know plenty of them, and I'm sure you do too, Coco as well. Like they all look white, the highest yellow you could be, but
like
eat like us. They are eating soul food. They are living as Black people. They're not living as white people. They are culturally Black. So I do think that it's not a yes or a no. It's a yes and or a no and, because yes, you are Black if you have a culture of Blackness, no matter how you present. But no, you are not culturally Black if you don't even present as Black and then you live a white lifestyle.
Right. So the culturally, like I said, I would say yes if you have that background, but presenting wise, racially, I don't think you can.
Oh no, you're not racially Black at all.
Presenting people, I feel the worst. I feel
like a white person.
The worst for. Like I feel really bad for those people, because they're truly stuck in a couple different worlds if they're culturally Black.
Because they could look like me, their sisters could look like me, and then they may have had a white daddy and came out with all his genes.
Right.
I mean, we birthed anything, so it could have just happened.
It could have just been the recessive just popped
DNA
up
just
showed up and showed out.
There you go.
Heard about that whole
you are a ginger light-skinned baby. That's
there are
what happened.
Families that are just, everybody is high yellow, like in especially Louisiana, in not New Orleans, but in other
life is like that.
Like there are a lot of people, like they are just all very, very fair skinned, but they are all culturally Black, and when they open their mouth, you can hear it. So I think
you guys hear about that story. I have never heard this until yesterday. Sandra Lang.
Who's that?
She was the one that was, so it was during apartheid. Both of her parents were white. She came out Black. And because of apartheid, you had to register. You saw that. You remember what I'm talking about?
They were both passing?
No. Her parents were white. Like
Caucasian,
white.
White. Yeah, she had a resentment.
Her. Yes. Okay. Yes. Now I remember what you're talking about. It was on my Snapchat story.
Hearing about that. And she had to register as a white person to live with her parents, but then she had to deregister and become Black when she met her husband. It was like, it blew my mind.
I seen that story. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it just reminds me of that, because there's no way that she can be She's culturally, I think she was white, but she was Black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was such an interesting.
Racially, she's Black, and culturally, she is not.
Yes.
Right.
I always question, because like
crazy how genetics works.
Yeah. But it's crazy because like my grandmother's children, like my mother and all them, like they're light skinned. They all light skinned or like have a variation of light to brownness or whatever. I always call my mother yellow because she's high yellow. They out of Georgia, you a high yellow woman. You just ended up getting some sun because you moved to the suburbs. But my aunt, who is a singular one, born of the same parents, skin of 2010 Michael Jackson. Okay. And we always call her Michael Jackson. It was just like, we make fun of her and everything. But if she wanted to, she could really present herself as a white woman. There's nothing stopping her to present herself as a white woman. Like she has, you could tell there's some features, maybe it's just me because I'm her niece. Obviously, I grew up with knowing
Black people
her.
always know.
Yeah, we know. Like I can look at you and go, yeah, something going on in there. Something's going on up there. But it's like she could if she wanted to. And I think she mostly pulls like, I'm black, because she has to. I feel like throughout her adulthood or her growing up, she's mostly probably tried to reassure people, I am black. Here is my mother. Here is my father. These are my siblings. Because imagine 6 kids and you the one that is just pale.
What I don't like though is I don't like that people feel like they have to prove that they're black. Like I don't like that whole thing.
But I seen something on TikTok also because there's a bunch of people who were like having to do that. Like here's a picture of my mom, here's a picture of my dad, and someone say if you have to post who your parents are, then you shouldn't say that you are black. Like you shouldn't say.
Yeah. You don't have
because there's gotten to a point though where
and like I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of just regular. Yeah, but I think that's where we're getting at.
They got to double check. Just the word nigga has been flying on TikTok, so people are like, hey, where your nigga papers?
Yes, and that's my thing. It's like we're getting to that point now where so many people are blackfishing that we have to question people who are naturally black with naturally black features. Are you really a Negro, my guy? Because there's so many different people who are claiming that they are when they really are not. And I think that's the sad part. Like some people have to prove they're black, even though they give black, but because of the others out here.
If you let them talk enough, you will know who fake and who not.
Right. Yes.
So let's get into it. Well, okay. Let's get into the last questions. Okay. So we went over briefly the history of white passing in the United States. Yeah. In 2022, do you believe white presenting people should pass? Do you agree with passing? And do you think passing currently benefits or could benefit the Black community racially and ethnically?
Absolutely not to the last one.
No.
But what about the first one?
Unless they're going to reach back, unless you're going to use it to their benefit and reach back.
Unless they are agents of change,
right?
Don't fucking do it.
That's one thing I like about Creole people. Some of them that understood the assignment was like, we can pass in these arenas and that will be our foot in the door. Don't forget where you come from. Right. But now I feel like people that are passing are just passing because they don't want to be a Negro. Yeah. So with that regard, if we're going with that, then I feel like everybody should just like.
Right. I don't know, because I always ask the question, if you were born blank, like nothing to you at all, and you got to see the livelihood of each race, would you still choose to be Black?
Come on.
Like but that's a question, and some people don't know how to answer it because they love being Black. They absorb it, they take it in. But looking at let's just say you got to see the child to adulthood life of an average person in each one of these races, would you still choose and say, I would like to be Black?
Hell yeah.
But you know what's terrible about this? It's out of safety. Anybody who has like a Black kid, or maybe it's specifically a son, I could see why they would say no to their kids, because I feel like it's terrifying to consider what could happen to them as they get older. Personally, I'm cool being Black. It's different for a kid. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but in terms of state.
So if you're saying if they were
Black is a different ethnicity, like instead of being American, I would love to be like Jamaican or Brazilian.
That's fair.
Like,
all right.
Black, just a different.
I put a flag in my bio too. I don't want to be that dusty bitch.
I want the little gloves in my window.
I want the
gloves in my window.
Right, I want a rosemary to hang
I
from
want it on
my.
my head seat. I want it on my head seat. Like,
What are you saying, Lavender?
like,
Oh, I was gonna say, if I would have to pick, I would still want to be Black, but I'd probably want to be Afro-Latine, just because of the combination of how beautiful. Like, baby, I'm saying, let me put on my
American. I think is the point. I don't want to be American.
Right.
I think it's the American part where we all have a problem.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
that's
Right.
I'll even take Black from UK. I'll even just I'll take a solid go.
I'll take a heavy, spicy Black any day. Like,
a spicy Black. Spicy Black.
Answer Coco's question. I'm gonna have to dip in a minute because my children are running their grandmother ragged. But I do not think, unless you are going to be a double agent against white supremacy, white passing does not benefit Blackness in any way. It doesn't really benefit anybody because white supremacy hurts white people before it hurts anybody else. So I don't think that white passing helps anybody at all. And I definitely don't think it benefits Blackness in any way, unless you are using your privilege to grab us and lift us up in some way. And then you'd have to be doing that your whole life. And you'd have to train up there'd have to be like a white passing university.
Correct.
Like training all the white passing people how to be a double agent. And like, it would have to be something that they taught each other.
Yes.
So if that's not gonna happen, which it ain't, probably, I would say that in no way white passing benefits. I think we need to let that go, because that's a part of white supremacy and colorism and all of that stuff. It does not benefit Blackness to define people as, well, you're white passing or you're white presenting or white this. We can do this to understand, but to prescribe this to this person's life and make that is their identity. No, that doesn't help them. It doesn't help us.
No, because when you're white passing it implies that you're kind of ashamed of the other side of you, right? I get wanting to access to privilege, and I get that, but also like to kill a whole other part of yourself, that's really sad.
That is the anti-Black.
Yeah,
absolutely. So let's just all take 30 seconds to wrap up. Final thoughts, plug any projects, everyone know where they can find you.
I'm gonna have to find you guys. I'm
already mutuals with you, Daria. We're already mutuals.
We are?
On TikTok. Yeah, I just saw one of your videos the other day. So we are already mutuals. I don't think we follow each other.
I'm gonna definitely find you now, girl.
Yay! Can we drop it in the chat so that we can find that?
What's your Tackless. Okay.
But I'm under Lavender Menace because the white people were finding me. So, like, I had to like change the whole thing. So I don't even know if I could type it. Oh, yes, I can. But so I'm Lavender Lee, on Instagram, Lavender_Lee, on TikTok, Lavender Menace, and I am pro-Black, very gay, very simple mom, Houston, Texas, very Southern, and I absolutely love that I've been a part of this. Coco, please have me back because this was magical. And
y'all can come back anytime y'all want.
Very nervous. Actually, I was terrified, but I really liked it. I was very scared.
Have a conversation.
Yeah.
In general, like, I'm good, like, hit me up. But yeah, that's me. I have a podcast on Spotify called The League of Extraordinary Melanin, where I talk about all things Black and brown and whatever. And so, yeah, thank you.
I think it was nice meeting you, Lavender. It was nice meeting all of you. I don't have any projects. I'm just living.
That's a project in itself. Listen.
Yeah.
My actual TikTok name.
So who's going next?
Okay,
wrap it up.
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Coco, for inviting me. I've had an amazing time getting to know you ladies and having a fantastic conversation about how powerful this melanin is.
Yes.
So if you all are interested in more tactless conversations from me, you can find me on Spotify, Google, Pandora, Podcast, Apple. I am everywhere. I drop on Tuesdays, Tactless Tuesdays. So follow Tactless Radio everywhere. And if you absolutely want to get more discussions out of me, TikTok is where I'm very, very active. So thank you so much.
Okay, I'm following you. My bad.
I'm sorry, y'all. I was trying to follow everybody. I was doing the job.
Business and plug.
Chase, what you got for us?
Yes, tagline, Chase to see Hayes, no matter how you say it, as long as that flavor stays in your mouth. I am an on-air personality. I work for and by a Black radio station. And so you can find me on TikTok at Chase Inc., CHAYESINC. You can also find me on Instagram at Candy Tastes Sweet. If you feel uncomfortable following me because of the name, I made it up in 8th grade. Mind your business. But I am a miscellaneous TikToker. I have nothing prone or like subjugated on my page. I'm either popping a hip, popping some chest, talking some smack, or proving that big girls do it and we do it well. So that's just that's all of me and together. And also I have a podcast, Kinky's Way Podcast, where we talk about all your kinky things and freaks and chains and stuff like that. It comes on Sundays.
We have to have one of them conversations later, girl.
Yes.
Oh.
So Sunday at 8:30 p.m. we are live on YouTube.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I loved having this conversation with you. I'm going to get an outro one of these days too, but if you're interested, next week, we're having another conversation, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube. Did welfare take Black men out of the home? Let's discuss.
I almost went in. Okay, go ahead.
We'll go in next week, girl. Yes. Okay, bye. You too.